What's up? This is your girl T. As a black woman in her 30s, I'm constantly trying to figure out life. But the one time of the week where it all seems to come together is on Sundays. Yeah, that's right. When I talk with my girls at brunch over a glass of champagne. I created this podcast to bring good vibes and open dialogue about various topics from mental health, relationships, personal development, the workspace, to the bubbly that happened over the weekend. Sundays are a time for celebration, rest, and reflection. So welcome to Champagne Sunday. Grab a glass, pop a bottle, and get ready to pour it up. Champagne Sunday is pleased to provide you with social media content for your personal education and informational purposes. Reliance on any information provided by Champagne Sunday or by any person or professional appearing on this podcast is solely at your own risk. Hey, welcome back to another episode of Champagne Sunday. It's your girl T, and I am so glad it's Sunday, but I'm a little bit sad because guess what? Tomorrow is Monday, and this past week has been very, very hectic. It was long and it was hectic, and I really needed the weekend to come by. And I felt that on Thursday I was like completely checked out. Like by the end of Thursday around like 7:30 in the middle of my final session, I had never felt this before, but I just really felt like I'm over, I'm done. And I was really pushing through to get through the last 30 minutes of that session. So I really needed the weekend. And so I hope that you have used this weekend to rest, reflect, and just relax and let go, and just let go of any stress, anything that was bothering you, anything that was not for you. I hope that you were able to get the most out of your weekend. And so that's why this Sunday I wanted to talk about self-care and what self-care means to you and kind of what it means to me as well. And how are we best utilizing self-care? So I really want to talk about self-care today. And of course, before we go into all of the good things about self-care, I want to tell you what I'm drinking on. I hope that you have a libation in hand. I have finally went back to champagne. Yes, I have champagne in my hand, drinking a nice glass of it. It's very crisp and cool. I love it. I love the champagne, and I hope I'm pronouncing it right. Shadon, I love their champagne. It's so good. It's so great. And it's crisp and it's chilled and it's just enough bubbly. I went back there. I was drinking champagne yesterday, drinking champagne today. I feel in my vibe. And I really realized too about me personally, like I sometimes like I don't like as you get older and like going out, drinking was the thing. Like you want to go and drink, take shots and drink more, take shots and drink more. But now I'm realizing that I really don't want to have the after effects of drinking. So I usually don't want to drink a lot. So what helps me is drinking champagne, prosecco, wine, and I still get the buzz and the lightness and then maybe a shot in between or a sip of something in between. But the main thing I like to drink is doing the champagnes, unless it's like a big special occasion where everybody's about to like, get shit faced, for lack of a better term. I really just like to sip on my glass of wine, my champagne. Maybe that just comes with being 30 and the hangovers is just too much. Like the hangovers now in your 30s, it's like an all day thing. It's not necessarily just, okay, it's just the morning and then you're good by 3 or 4 o'clock. Like, no, hangovers now in your 30s is like I'm out for the count like all day and I can't do anything. And now I missed a whole day of the weekend because I was hungover. Ugh, it's just like it messes up the productivity when you're an adult. It's just crazy how things change. Adulting. Ugh. Who likes it? Nobody. And that's why we need self-care, because we have to pour into ourselves. And so today's bubbly, all of that to say, I'm drinking champagne, y'all, and I hope that you have a libation. But today's bubbly is going to be about self-care. And the quote is, I really like it. So the quote of the day is, the thing that is really hard and really amazing is giving up on being perfect and beginning the work of becoming yourself. So giving up the thought of being perfect and giving into and starting to do the work of just becoming your best self. I really love that quote. about self-care, because self-care, self-love, I think is just all so important and tied into each other. And self-care is the work that you do to gain or to achieve the self-love. So you pour into yourself in order to be able to reach the state where you truly love yourself. And I came to this topic today because this weekend, again, I said I had a long week. So this weekend started off Friday. I work from home on Friday. So some Fridays I have the luxury of curating my own schedule and what I want to do. And so the first thing I did on Friday, I had an appointment for a dentist appointment. This dentist appointment has been rescheduled 2 times. Once on my own because I couldn't go to the dentist because I was sick and was having symptoms of COVID, but I didn't have COVID, but I was having symptoms of COVID. So that was one I had to reschedule. And then the second time they rescheduled because they said they didn't have the equipment that I needed or they needed in order to do the procedure. So ever since I could remember, since I've been young, like elementary school, I have two large front teeth, right? And so I've always had like big brown spots on my teeth, on my two front teeth. Sometimes I've been okay with it. And I feel like I wrote a post on Instagram about that. I felt like I've been okay with those brown spots on my teeth until someone would, out of curiosity, have a question. Someone might say, what is that on your teeth? And especially working with kids. So even in elementary school, kids are kids, people would ask. And then as you become an adult and you start working with kids, little kids would ask, what's that on your teeth? Then I had sometimes family members ask, like, what's that? The thing about it is, like, the more white my teeth are, sometimes the more prominent that the spots can be. And I didn't really realize that until I went to the dentist and they were talking about it. And they were saying that sometimes when we're born, our teeth have patterns on it, kind of like stone or marble. And that was just like a pattern that my teeth had developed. And it doesn't have anything to do with my health, my dental health, but it's just a pattern on my teeth. And so people would just always ask, whether it's family or kids or like being young and it's your peers, they're saying like, what is that on your teeth? Like, what is that? Or sometimes people would say, out of being nice, they'll say, oh, you have something right there. You need to get it off. And I'm like, oh, that's my teeth. Like, that's the spot on my teeth. And even the while of having these questions, and sometimes it built insecurities in me, I also had people to tell me like, oh my God, you have a beautiful smile. I love your smile. Your smile is so bright. I really like your smile. So it's like you have conflicting views of what people are saying about your physical appearance. And so sometimes you do feel really insecure. Other times you forget about it. And then other times you're like feeling yourself and you really like how you look. But all of that goes to say, I felt that in the post I wrote, I said that you can change your physical appearance. So nowadays, a lot of times people are changing their physical appearance. They're getting BBLs, they're getting tummy tucks, they're changing their nose, they're changing their lips, they're changing their hair, they're changing their makeup and what they wear. They're changing. The other day, Lala was talking about, was that Lala? No, that wasn't Lala. That was who was that? That was Waka's Tammy. That was Tammy. Waka's girl or ex-wife was saying that you can get foot surgery and you can change the way your feet look and all of these things, right? And so it becomes a place where you can do the changing and change your physical appearance, but until you start, as the quote said, of the bubbly, until you start to work on your inner self, until you start to truly love yourself, you'll never be genuinely happy with the physical changes you make. And so I changed, getting the spots removed, and it took time. It was a process. Friday morning, but she even had to drill a little bit because one of the spots were a little deeper. What was I going to say? She removed the spots, and then I noticed my smile was different and the spots were gone. And I felt and I was like, Tanisha, I kind of talked to myself like, how do you feel? Like, do you feel like, oh my God, this is a weight lifted off my shoulder? Or do you feel like, oh, things are the same? And I kind of felt that because I've gotten to the place, like, over time, to really love who I am and love myself, that me changing my appearance definitely is a plus. And I like that now my smile is more white and more brighter without the spots. But I don't feel that I'm just so much better now, and I think because I have already this love for myself, this love for who I am, that it didn't really impact me or change what I thought about myself that much. And that's when it dawned on me that even when I think about my weight, and that it has always, oh my God, I could create a whole episode about my weight loss journey and my weight, and how I always thought of my weight negatively. And I still, to this day, when I go out in public and I compare myself to others, like that has always been a thing. Even when I look back and I realize how smaller I was, and not saying like I've never been small or skinny, but looking at my smaller self and looking that I had a shape, but I wasn't like fat. I always looked at myself as fat or just like so overweight. And to look back and say and look at old pictures and like, nah, T, you was okay. But it's a big journey, right? It's a matter of getting to self-acceptance and loving yourself. So I wasn't able to, in those moments when I wasn't what I thought I was, right? In those moments when I didn't look how I actually did, I wasn't able to be happy are about my physical appearance or the changes I made, because around, I would say around 2017 up to till 2017, 2018. I'm not even gonna put time on it, because honestly I can say up until probably I reached my 30s, and now I'm at like my highest weight ever that I've ever. I think looking back, I'm like, even when I I guess looking back, I'm just like, I wasn't as big as I thought I was. And I also too wonder now, like maybe I'm not as big as I think I am now, even though technically my weight is larger than I've ever seen it, and I can see the difference, just like I've seen the difference in the past. Maybe conceptually, if someone else was looking at me, I probably don't look as big as I think I am, right? And so it's interesting, because when I think back to when I was like, oh my God, I'm gaining weight and I'm getting big, I look back at those pictures and I'm like, girl, you look fine. You look great. You look good. But because I didn't have that satisfaction or that acceptance of me, of I'm okay with however I look, whether I'm at my biggest or my lightest, or I'm in my in-betweenest, that it was an issue for me. And I remember having this conversation with my cousin, and she has lost a lot of weight, and I mean a lot of weight. And I'm a person looking from the outside, right? And so I can see like, oh wow, you've lost a lot of weight. She can also acknowledge that she has lost weight, but she feels as though her body, or how her size is still an issue. Like it's still not what she wants it to be, which is fine. So I think it's different if you're like, my body isn't where I want it to be. I want to have XYZ. It's totally perfect to have body goals, right? Or weight or health. But I think it's the thing that I connected with her on, and I felt like, man, we got to work on this, is that she was like, I still think I'm big. And that was a like that's where you start to see like the misperceptions, or the negative self perceptions that you can have of yourself, that can start to snowball into people, what I've seen now, having all of these extraneous surgeries and procedures and cosmetic procedures just to change things, and they're thinking they're changing it for the better, but every time you change one thing, now it's something else, and then there's something else, and then there's something else, and it snowballs. So for me, it's necessary, like, how do we get to a place where we just love ourselves, even if we're not at our goal weight, even if we're not at our goal appearance? Maybe with something, we want something else. It may not be weight. It may be something on your face or something on your body that you want to change, that is possible to change. How do we love ourselves regardless? And I think it takes a lot of time looking in the mirror. And I'm I'm not going to lie. A lot of times you have to look yourself in the mirror and talk to yourself. And Tabitha Brown said this, and I really liked when she was having this conversation. I can't remember word from word, but she was talking about talking to yourself and having conversations with yourself. And one way to do that is to look yourself in the mirror while you are talking to yourself, and really look yourself in the eyes. And sometimes it's a moment about that deep intensity of talking to yourself and looking at yourself that it connects. And then when you start talking about real things like insecurities or goals or where you want to be, or even just giving yourself compassion, looking at yourself and giving yourself compassion can be a feeling in the self of like, you start to do the work, like how the quote said of the bubbly, that you start to begin to do the work to be your true self. And I think positive affirmations, looking at yourself in the mirror, talking to yourself are ways to build that self-esteem, to build that self-love and self-worth. And I even did that today, and I looked at myself because sometimes last night, again, I'm not full vulnerability on the table. Last night when I was out with friends and we were at a lounge, I kind of felt insecure about like how I looked. And I think also before I left the house, I did. So it wasn't like I looked at people and was like, oh, before I left the house, I felt insecure because I had this outfit that I wanted to wear, right? And so I'm like, yeah, I'm gonna wear this outfit. And then you put on the outfit and you're like, oh, this is not what I thought it was going to be. And then I'm also on my menstrual cycle. So then there's bloating. And so then you're bloating. And then it's also, you can start to go into this cycle. And it's funny because I'm a psychologist. So I tell people all day about negative thinking and changing negative thinking and reframing. And then you do it your damn self, right? And so it can start to go into, oh my God, I'm doing all this work and I'm working out and I'm still not losing weight and I'm not where I want to be. And it goes, right? But then you have to, again, stop yourself and say, hey, it's only been a month of working out. It's only been a month of trying to eat right. Let's give it some more time. Give yourself a break. Still be consistent. And it's not going to all change overnight. That's reframing. And then there's also just sometimes just not feeling your best, even when you reframe and then you go out and then you still kind of feel, I don't feel my best. I don't feel the greatest right now. And so I ended up talking to myself today in the mirror and gave myself compassion and gave myself that grace that I think I gave myself a little bit reframing because I was like, girl, you got to go. You don't have time to be caught up in an emotional dysfunction right now about your weight. You got to go to dinner right now. But on top of that, it's coming back to that with yourself, right? And so I came back today and I looked at myself in the mirror and I just was talking to myself and I said to myself about how, and to be honest, I can't even tell you what I said to myself because I feel like it was that it was that deep. Like I was just in the zone. I looked at myself in the eyes, and I just pretty much was giving positive affirmations to myself and saying like I think in the gist, I can't remember exactly word from word, but basically like you're doing it. Like you're trying, you're doing it, you're on the right path. You have to give it time, give yourself grace. You are doing it. You're not in the same place that you were XYZ. You are trying your best. It may not look like how you want it to look right now, but you are doing it. You're trying to make change, but you also have to give yourself grace and time to see the change happen. And so that was basically what I said to myself. And I think it helped a little bit today. And I felt a little better after saying it. But yeah, so in self-love on the path, you have to have honest, genuine conversations with yourself. Look yourself in the mirror and really have those conversations. I think another big thing about being with self-love is self-care. Self-care is the epitome, I think, of self-love. How do you get self-love? You have to pour into yourself. We talk about this every week. How are you going to pour into yourself? We're not just pouring into ourselves because it sounds nice with the theme of Champagne Sunday, but we're also pouring into ourselves because we matter and we need to take care of ourselves to be able to do other things and to take care of others. And so with self-care, a lot of times I remember being in grad school and there was a conversation or like a roundtable conversation. And I think we were doing a mock group therapy, I believe. I'm not sure what we were doing in grad school. Some of the things we did is very blurry. I don't know what we were doing. But we were in a group and I remember the conversation said, what is self-care? What does that look like? And a lot of people were saying self-care looks like taking trips, doing activities and hobbies. I think that was the main thing. People were like taking a trip, doing an activity and hobbies. That's self-care. And then I said self-care can also be something as simple as brushing your teeth, doing a face care routine. And till this day, I have tried to share that with my clients because a lot of times we have this misconception that in order for me to be engaging in self-care, I have to be going on some luxury trip to the Bahamas, or I have to be doing some hobby that takes up like 2 to 3 hours out of the weekend, or something that's consistently me being outside of the house. Self care can really be anything that is pouring into yourself. So if that's, nowadays the big thing is facial care and skincare and doing a skincare routine. So if at night you take 30 minutes to do your skincare routine, that is self-care. At night, if you say, I'm going to take a bubble bath, I am in love with bath time shower stuff. I follow this page on Instagram, and honestly, sometimes Instagram can also be self-care, but the way you use it, because sometimes it can backlash. And it's also the pages that you're following on Instagram. So following things that are positive and make you feel good can definitely be self-care. And if you do it, try not to be hyper focused on it. But I follow these pages that women who like bath scrubs, bath bombs, sugar scrubs, body washes, candles, scented goods. It's just like all scent stuff. It's all like fragrance and body care, and I freaking love it. And so self-care can simply be buying a new body scrub and taking a extra long shower to use your body scrub, or to use your new body wash and then putting on this nice buttercream scented body cream that matches the scent of your body scrub and body wash. I mean, I don't know. Whatever floats your boat, that floats mine. I love doing that. You know, that can be self-care of just taking an extra long shower, taking a bubble bath, lighting a candle, writing in a journal, lighting a candle, saying a prayer. I mean, organizing your room could be self-care. If you're a person who really needs things to be organized to feel at peace and calm, organizing your room could be therapy for you, could be like self-care, therapeutic for you. I'm sorry. It could be self-care. Sitting and doing nothing. If you're a person who's similar to my mom, who's always running around and doing things, and I have to tell her all the time, please be still, just be still, don't do anything. Sitting still and doing nothing can definitely be self-care. Self-care can come in different forms, but it is whatever brings peace and calmness and stillness to your life can be self-care. And so the more you pour into yourself, the more times you give yourself self-care. Some people have to schedule it. I've had clients who had to schedule their self-care because they honestly work so hard and so busy that they would sometimes maybe even forget to eat. Eating can be self-care, eating your favorite snack, that they would forget to do that. And so some people might say, well, all of this tea sounds like daily routines. Your daily routines is self-care? Yeah, it can definitely be daily routines, because I would ask, how many times have you neglected your daily routines when it comes to yourself? How many times have you said, and I'm going to give you anything, just like the face care, skin, if you do a skincare, how many times have you maybe been in a rush and said, I'm not going to do all that skincare. I'm just going to hurry up and rush out the door this morning, or I'm not going to eat breakfast because I'm late, or I don't have time to really think about what I want to wear. I'm just going to put it on. I'm going to put something on. Or I'm hopefully like people aren't neglecting like brushing their teeth and doing those things, but it could happen at night. Because I bet a lot of people probably say, fuck brushing my teeth, I'm tired, I'm about to get into bed. Or fuck taking a shower, I'm sleepy, I'm about to just knock out on this couch. Like, I'm pretty sure it happens. So that is kind of like neglecting self-care in a way, or I don't feel like wrapping up my hair tonight. So even though like routines can also be self-care if they are pouring into yourself, if you are pouring into yourself. So that is good to know. So all of that to be said is that self-care is so important because it builds on your self-love, it builds on your appreciation for yourself. And whether you are doing positive affirmations in the morning. I don't know if you ever watched Being Mary Jane. She used to have sticker post-its on her mirror, and she would write quotes and different quotes on her sticker on her mirror, and that was Mary Jane's self-care. So whether it's saying positive affirmations, writing on your mirror, dry erase markers in the morning, or doing it on post-it notes, whether it's doing a face care routine, whether it is a hobby. You know, a lot of times on the weekend, I've seen people take up skating, hiking. People join like the little leagues. They might do a kickball league or a baseball league. Some people have done like the Nike Fit Club and Run Club and working out on the weekends, or whatever it may be that really is something that you enjoy and you feel like it's good for you and good for your esteem and good for how you feel can be self-care. So making sure you're doing those things and pouring into yourself is really important to have self love, because no matter what changes you make to yourself, I think that it matters how you feel about yourself. How you feel about yourself. How do you feel about who you are at the end of the day? A lot of times, people who change their body image, who get surgeries, who do things maybe like I did, change their teeth or get new teeth or do something, that sometimes they feel that those things will make them feel better, that it would make them, have this sense of like, people gonna be checking for me now. People gonna be, I'm gonna be so I'm gonna be so great. I'm gonna be so loving. Like, if only I could just change this one thing about myself. And they change it and they realize they still have depression. They still have anxiety. They still are sad. They still don't feel good about themselves. And people like wonder why. And it's because you haven't done the inner work. You have to do the work inside. You really do. You have to do the work inside to really feel great about yourself. So another thing is that I said earlier that there's different types of self-care, and that a lot of times people do feel like self-care is this luxury act, and that usually leaves people feeling overwhelmed and ill-equipped to really engage, and they don't see self-care as a priority. And so we did talk today about there's different types of self-care. To know that there's physical self-care that you can use to engage your body, making sure that you're getting adequate sleep. That is a good one, because I do not do that. I do not get enough sleep. I know I don't. Sometimes I do and sometimes I don't. Eating, we said nutrition, making sure you're eating and fueling your body well. You're taking charge of your health. You're getting checkups as we get older, ladies and gents, as we get older in our 30s, that there are different checkups and treatments and things that we need to be checking on. Cholesterol, blood pressure. We need to make sure that we're getting our physicals. If there are any if you are predispositioned to any types of illnesses, you might want to go ahead and get that checked or ask your doctor about those things. You might also want to, just check on your overall physical health. Are you getting enough exercise? That is important. Another one, and I did not talk about this, even though I did talk about physical, I didn't talk about social self-care, right? So even when we're thinking about trips, you don't have to take a trip, but just hanging around people that you really love, who bring peace to you. Like yesterday, even though the lounge piece was not the best last night, we went to a lounge. Well, not last night, on Friday night. But the thing that was really self-care for me was hanging out with my girls and going to dinner. And it was just so exciting because we hadn't been around each other in so long. And so just to have that face-to-face time with your friends, not in the group chat, even though that is good self-care, not in the group chat, not on FaceTime, but just real interaction, physical face-to-face time, was awesome. And making sure we're just nurturing our family and friend relationships. It is so important. So just socialization is key to self-care. But often, again, it's hard. And we talked about this on our friendship episode, that it's hard to sometimes make that time for your friends. It's easy to neglect your relationships when work gets hard, work gets overwhelming. If you have family and family interferes with your social life and your friends, and the connections that you have. And I swear, I felt like it was just so much easier to talk to people when we were in our 20s, but it really takes a certain amount of priority to manage and schedule time with your friends, right? And even sometimes your close family members, like your cousins and things, it takes time. So socializing or social self-care. The third one, and I just wanted to break it down, is mental self-care. We all know what that means, right? We love mental self-care here, because mental self-care could be things like this, listening to this podcast about self-care, or going to your therapist, right? Making sure that you're making time to check in with your therapist, whether you go weekly, monthly, bi-monthly. checking in with a mental health professional to influence your psychological well-being. Also, just doing things for your cognitive wit. Like, so maybe you want to do some puzzles, maybe you want to do some little crossword things or learning about new things, going to a museum. Not too long ago, I went to an art museum. That was like really nice and really different to open up my mind to different art types of art and just looking around and exploring. Maybe you want to do something out of your box that opens up your mind to new things. It can also be practicing compassion. So maybe you're going to help someone else, go volunteer. That could be something on your for your mental processing and self-care, showing empathy, showing different feelings, and just doing things that mentally stimulate you. And so that could also be doing games and things with your spouse or your significant other. If you're in a certain field, reading up something new about in your field of interest, and just doing proactive things to help you stay mentally healthy. Or, it's Sunday, child, so we gotta have spiritual self-care. Make sure you go to church and pay and praise the Lord, whatever your place of worship may be, whether it's church or some other place. Make sure that you really engage with others who have like-minded spirituality or religious views, and that you're nurturing your spirit, whether you enjoy meditation, attending a religious service, praying. Spiritual self-care is very important, and make sure that you're really engaging in those practices and making sure that they're fulfilling for you. And lastly, we have emotional self-care. It's important to have healthy coping skills to deal with uncomfortable emotions. And this kind of ties in with mental self-care, right? But it's important that we have healthy coping skills to deal with uncomfortable emotions like anger, anxiety, sadness. Emotional self-care may include activities that help you acknowledge and express your feelings regularly and safely. Whether you talk to a partner or a close friend, you have a confidant, tell them how you feel. Set aside time and leisure activities that help you process your emotions. It's important to create emotional self-care in your life. So, do you have healthy ways to process your emotions? Do you incorporate activities into your life that help you feel recharged? Oh, I love that. Should we do that as a new R? Recharged. Should it be recharge, reflect, relax, rest, recharge? Come on, 4 R's. We got the 4 R's. Make sure that you do those things for your emotional well-being is very important. And I think it all ties together. It's self-care, that you do things that really pour into yourself. There were so many ideas in those pieces of self-care. So make sure that this week that you pour into yourself and you make time for those things. You make time for it. Develop a self-care plan. So, what would it look like to develop a self-care plan? I think people don't realize that they may need a plan. Some people are like, oh, I'll just do self-care when I'll do self-care. But make sure that you're building your self-care plan, and the following steps can be helpful. So, we're going to think about some steps that you can use to develop your self-care plan. So, first, I feel like you should assess your needs. Where am I lacking? Where do I need to implement some self-care? So you can make a list of the different parts of your life and major activities that you engage in each day. So, such as work, you may go to school, relationships, and family. And you feel like, where do I need self-care in those areas? Like, what do I need, right? Where do I need the different parts and the major activities that I engage in? So, assess your needs. Consider your stressors. So think about the aspects of these areas that cause stress and consider ways you might address that stress. So, what really stresses you out? Where do you feel like in your day to day or just in your week that you get the most stress? What brings you the most stress? Identify and pinpoint those areas. And then also thinking about ways, how can I address that stress, right? So we're thinking about how can we address the stressors through the self-care. So then here we go with the strategies, right? So we've talked about what my needs are. We considered our stressors. Now we're going to go into devising a plan. right? We're going to think about some activities that you can do that will help you feel better. Sometimes if you go to Google, you'll find these awesome self-care lists that tell you all the types of things that are self-care. Some people don't even realize, like, just walking your dog, that is self-care. That's something you probably have to do anyways, but if you enjoy doing it, it definitely is self-care that you can do, that will help you feel better each of these areas of your life. So these are devising strategies: spending time with friends, developing boundaries. Ooh, developing boundaries is definitely self-care. Developing boundaries, self-care, because that helps you build healthy social connections. So yeah, so devise your self-care strategies and figure out what you are how you're going to execute, or how you're going to execute your stressors or cope with those things. And then also, we always like to do this, and I always tell my clients, what barriers do you think will come up with you being able to do this plan? So plan for your challenges or your barriers. When you discover that you're neglecting a certain aspect of your life, or you're not engaging in your self-care, create a plan for that change. When do you feel? So a barrier sometimes for me is that I get off late. And I'm tired. I'm not motivated. I got, or maybe a barrier could be like, I got kids and they're, who knows what's going to happen. So make a plan for your challenges, and then take small steps. Take small steps. You don't have to tackle everything all at once. Identify one small step you can take to begin caring for yourself. And this is my rule of thumb. Whether I'm telling the client strategies, if they're like saying my daughter or my son does XYZ and they name like 5 things and they're like, help me, I always say, what is your main thing? What is that one thing that you really want to fix? What is the priority, the primary thing? When clients have goals and they're naming like 5 to 6 things, what is the one goal that you really want to work on? Don't overwhelm yourself. And I tell this to my sister all the time, one step at a time. I know our anxiety thinkers, the people who like to overthink and do everything at once, we always think about things like all together, but one step at a time. Small steps, baby steps. What is the one thing that you really want to incorporate? Don't try to do all 6, 7, 8 things on your list. Take small steps. You don't have to tackle everything at once. Do one thing at a time, okay? And then the last thing in our plan is to schedule time to focus on your needs. Even when you feel like you don't have time to squeeze in one more thing, make self-care a priority. When you're caring for all aspects of yourself, when you're caring for all that is you, you'll find that you are able to operate more effectively and efficiently. You'll see and notice the difference when you're in self-care. And I'm telling you, not only will you be able to operate, that you'll really genuinely start to love and care for who you are. You're starting to spend time with yourself. And that's another thing. It's like you're spending time with yourself in self-care. And even if you're like saying you're doing social self-care and you're spending time with others, you're really thinking about what you want. It's like you're putting your needs first. And there's something special about being able to put your needs first, especially if you're a person who is always thinking about others and always doing for something for others and always giving, 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 giving. It's something very special about being able to give onto yourself. And so I think that's pretty much it. I think that was the main thing, is that we talked about self-care today, what that means, making sure and knowing that self-care is this conscious act that you take in order to promote your own physical, mental, and emotional health. And there are many forms of self-care, but it definitely has to be a priority. It doesn't have to be a luxury item. It can just be simple as ensuring that you get enough sleep at night, or that you took a few minutes to get some fresh air. But making sure that you're engaging in self-care, because self-care promotes self-love and it helps just love on yourself a little bit. All right? Love on yourself. Love on yourself. So I'm not really sure if we need to pour it up, because honestly, we poured it up a lot today. I think we really poured it up. We really don't need a pour it up moment, because this whole episode was pouring it up and pouring into ourselves. And so I hope that something from this episode resonates with you and you'll be able to pour into yourselves. Make sure, as always, that you go to our page and that you tap in on our social media page. It's Champagne Sunday Podcast on Instagram. We like to post our videos. We like to shout out our special guests that come through. We also like to give you quotes and daily things of that nature throughout the week and just positive vibes and affirmations. So make sure that you check that out. Remember, this podcast is on all streaming platforms. And if you also want to be a little extra, you can always go on to Anchor and also comment, post, write a little something, something if you have anything to say. But also, you can just always go to Instagram and I don't know why I said go. Like, where did that come from? But you also can go on Instagram and write about us and talk and all that good stuff, that jazzy stuff on there. So thanks again for another episode of Champagne Sunday. I really appreciate you all for kicking it with us. And next month is our anniversary month. It's your anniversary. What? Anniversary. Ooh. Do you know what today is? What? It's your anniversary. Yeah. Next month is going to be our anniversary month. It's going to be a year of this podcast. And I'm so excited that even though we took a break, I took a break. I said we, but we together, we in this together. Even though I took a break, I'm so excited to say that we're coming up on a year of Champagne Sunday and doing this shit, right? So I don't know what the anniversary podcast is going to be like. I'm still kind of brainstorming. I want to do some great things and some interesting things with Champagne Sunday, but I'm going to take it slow. You know what I'm saying? I'm going to take it slow and make sure I do it right. But I'm just excited that you all have been kicking it with me for a year. So shout out to February and our anniversary month. But yeah, that's been our episode. Peace. See you next Sunday.